And my Aunt Sophie, who really liked him very much,
Everybody liked him but Sue.
she said to me, why don't you care for him? He's so nice.
Everybody liked
And
him.
I said, you know, Aunt Sophie, I'll be wearing diamonds, but I'll never know where they came from, you know, because I just didn't trust him. Anyway, skip ahead 3 years, 4 years,
Yeah, you dated him for a while.
and on occasion, I'd break off with him, then start up with him again, and so forth. Anyway, now I have to tell you a story which is intertwined. He calls me up one day, and he tells me his boss, from whom he's working, he used to work for a bunch of printers, you know.
May I ask how old you were? How old were you at this time?
I was 22, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And because I saw him off and on, but I knew that I wasn't going. But in the meantime, when I saw him off and on, it was like with a group setting, because Saul Gilbert would have the car, and the reason Saul Gilbert had the car was because he needed it for business.
Wheaties.
And every time I called, I had the boys came over with Saul. It was Saul and Al and another Saul and Leon, you know, Fran's husband. And I would get the girls, my friends, Zelma, Edna, you know, Florence. And that's where we would do the dancing and the you know, going out maybe to a movie sometimes. But Lou always got us tickets for musicals in Manhattan. That's one of the things I couldn't understand. People didn't have cars. People didn't have money. If you went to a restaurant, we didn't have a McDonald's then, but you went to a cafeteria. You know, you didn't go to
You went to Bigfoot's, you went.
yeah, you went to a cheap cafeteria. And Lou always was with this bravado. He'd bring tickets. I got tickets. I got 12 tickets.
Yeah,
Your friends
you
could
could
come.
always get the tickets.
He could always get the tickets. I couldn't understand that, you know. Anyway, but when Saul came out, I used to ask Saul, who would you like me among my friends to get for you, you know, as a date? No, don't bother. I'll bring the boys anyway, but don't bother. Well, my feeling for Lou cooled off all the time because I didn't trust him. He, meanwhile, used to get tickets galore, and you know, ingratiate himself with, tell Zelma that Saul Seltzer is taking her out, and tell this, and we'll all go out with these, you know, fancy tickets. Okay, after a while, this Lou calls me up one day and tells me that he's invited to a wedding for his boss's daughter at Rossoff's on 43rd Street.
What kind of place is that?
Yeah, it was a very nice restaurant with a private room on top.
Oh, you mean the restaurant?
Rossoff, yeah. And the girl is going to be married at Rossoff's, and it'll be Christmas Day. And would I please be his, you know, accompanying? I felt I had nothing to lose. Yeah. Now I must tell you that when I went to that wedding, and I'm ashamed to say it even, but I was like a real rude. I mean, I wasn't a sophisticated girl. I knew from nothing. And I used to wear long braids, you know, around and I dressed very simply. And I come to this place, you know, with the wedding, and he's introducing, and we're sitting at the main table, you know, with the bride and the groom and the mother and the father. And the woman is scrutinizing me, something awful, the mother of the bride. And and Lou is telling her that we're going to have a wedding, he and I, February the 18th. And I'm looking at him, I can't understand why he's saying that, you know? So while I'm looking at him, I'm looking at him dopey, and she sensed that, you know, like it's a surprise to me, just like it's a surprise to her. And she said, really? He said, yes, Sue's mother and father are making a wedding for a friend, you know, the girl that they brought up. And he said, and I spoke to her mother and father, and it's going to be a double wedding. Now, he took that upon himself.
Yeah,
Because I found
proposed,
out
yeah.
later my mother did not know about it, you know. So she said, when did you say? He said, February the 18th. So she looks at me and she says, why so soon? Now, that's funny. I just met the woman that afternoon. Who was she to tell me why so soon? Suppose I did want to get married, you know. I mean, so that seemed funny to me.
What did you tell her?
No, I didn't want to embarrass him. I'm just sitting like a dumbbell, you know. And she said, why so soon? Anyway, that night we had tickets for a show, again, you know. And we went to see whatever went to see. And as a matter of fact, and I slept over at Fran's house. And I'm telling my uncle that Lou said something very funny today.
Well, did you ask Lou when you went to the movies? Did you?
No, I didn't. That's how John. That's
Well,
how
he
John.
knew we get married on that February 18th.
No, but he knew. I mean, he knew he was lying.
Yeah, but yeah, you could have gotten
No, but
married.
he should have.
Wasn't it silence, consent,
No.
tacit consent?
So anyway, when I called, then on Monday, from my job, I called her up, and I said, Mrs. Drimmer, we met, you know, and I said, why did you tell me why so soon when Lou said we're going to get married? I said, we're not going to get married. She said, you know, you're a very bright girl to call me up. I said, could I meet you for lunch? So I met her the following Saturday at Hotel Pennsylvania on 7th Avenue. There was a Schraft's there, you know. And she said, will it be convenient if you came Saturday afternoon? I said, yes. I took the bus. I met her at 7th Avenue. And she said to me, the reason I said why so soon is because Lou has been in a lot of trouble. And she said to me, what he did, he used to collect the bills of and never turn it into the, the people that he sold. He never turned it in. And he used to sell to the Gilberts and to all,
So what? So what bills?
Stationery.
stationery, like pads for,
Pads, bills, bill pads.
printing
Labels.
Okay.
printing labels and if Mr. Gilbert paid him, he wrote paid, pocketed the money, but never turned it in. And then finally, that's where he got the money to pay all these bills, the
And
tickets.
showed up, like,
Yeah.
Oh, it all comes together.
yeah,
Yeah.
they got
So
caught.
she tells me that she found out the people were calling, and then they had a meeting with Lou, and Lou said that
They were going to
he
arrest
pocketed the money, that he used the money because he has a very expensive girlfriend.
Oh,
God.
you're right.
Yeah.
If that's the
Now,
best he could
that's
come up
why I'm
with.
telling you, I sat there like a dumbbell, like a rube. I had no jewelry on, I had no makeup even on. And as she looked at me, she realized this can't be the girl he's talking about. She's so plain and simple and stupid.
Now, could I
Just
tell
tell me,
you?
is he now the
Could I
CEO
tell
of
you
Enron
something?
or something?
Wait a minute. Could I tell you
Right, this
something?
guy, Lou?
You kids should all be
Wait a
proud that she chose the right guy.
Yes.
Because Pop Gilbert, your great grandfather, your great grandfather, he bailed him out of jail. He thought Lou was a nice guy,
Wow.
and he bailed him out. Pop
Yeah,
Gilbert.
yeah, well-
They gave him money to.
Well, the
to bail
story
him out.
was that after he
Yeah.
confessed of why he didn't turn the money in because he had an expensive girlfriend and all, she called all his friends who were Leon,
Yes.
and he had a sister and 3 other friends, and because they all liked him, they liked his
What
personality,
was his sister's name? She was,
Bertie.
Bertie.
yeah, she was nice.
Yeah, and they all volunteered to pay $5 a month. Each person would pay off $5 a month for all the
I
debt.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
But Pop Gilbert, they
Also,
came.
yeah,
He
so
paid a
Saul
sizable
also paid
amount.
$5 a month. All the friends paid off the debt. Now, an aside to that,
Wait, in an effort to get all of this on one tape,
yeah,
we only have 19 minutes left here, and I still also want to get Grandma's meeting Grandpa on
We never
here.
actually met Sally.
Could I make
Stop it.
one, this, Sue may not like this, but she used to always say, well, to make a long story short, and Saul would say, it's too late now, Sue.
all right, but the thing is, if you're gonna ask me why I didn't marry Lou, you have to know why, and that was the reason.
Well, I see, I mean, that's sort of, I just want to try to fit this on one tape
You
here.
won't get mine.
Just give me what happened next when you met, I mean, how did things work out with
Okay,
Uncle
all right.
Sal?
So when my cousin Fran was married, Lou went to the wedding, I went to the wedding, and Saul Gilbert went to the wedding. You know, because he was a friend of, and Saul must have already sensed that I'm not seeing Lou anymore. So he came over to me and he said, what is this? I hear that you and Lou aren't seeing each other. And I said, no, we're not. I said, no, we're not. And he says, are you sure? And I said, absolutely sure. He says, then can I drive you to the station? Because he knew that I lived in. And I said, yes. And then a week or two later, he called me, and again he says, are you sure you will go back to Lou? No. And I said, absolutely sure. So anyway, then he started to date me, and that's how I.
What kind of places did you guys go?
He used to take me to the 42nd Street cafeteria and look at me in the eye, and he'd say, you know, you're very lucky. The other girls go to Nedick's. Nedick's was like an OJ stand. You know? So that was the big sport.
Well, he took her to a lot of plays.
Yeah.
Did you used to talk about her?
He liked plays.
Did you used to talk to her about? Did you used to talk about her?
Later,
to
I
you?
met her before I blew up.
No. And then in one of the things where we had a date, that's where Harry told you. After he came to the 42nd Street cafeteria and met me, and we went bowling. Well,
Right.
Guys, I told him I have a nice redheaded sister home. Would he be interested?
And you spoke to Grandpa directly, Harry directly.
Yeah, I
He
said
came
to
over to meet her because
Right.
she was with
Yeah,
Saul.
yeah.
Okay.
It was the first time.
Now, Grandma,
Now she can.
now I want you to give me how you first heard about Harry Paul Gilbert.
Well, when Sue came home that night, she said she had a good time, and you know, Saul has a very nice brother. I met him at the bowling alley. She said, in fact, I asked him if he'd like to meet you. Okay? Right. So she said, and he said yes.
But my name wasn't Herbie though.
Sorry, yeah.
But it started with an
Don't
H.
strike against you. It started with an H. Anyway, so she said if that's okay. So she said, you know what, Mama's inviting, having a dinner. What, was it Thanksgiving or something? I don't know, a special dinner. And Saul is coming out with Fran and Leon, you know, as she invited them. And
Sally was coming.
Sari was coming, and another, Seal and Irv. So there's only room in the car. It was a 6-passenger car, and Sari coming out, who was my contemporary, nice girl. She sat on Harry's lap coming out, you know, and Harry came, and I thought he was nice coming up the steps. He looked. My mother didn't like him. I'll tell you why. Because you were going to go to work afterwards.
Yeah, I wore a
And he
dark
came
shirt.
to-
I said, she thought
He
I was a
came.
mafia guy.
No, and he was wearing a dark shirt.
There's this big fear of the mafia.
Right, yeah, he was wearing a dark
Oh,
shirt and a
gangster.
tie. And she said, what kind of man, what kind of boy comes to meet a girl for the first time wearing a dark shirt? Okay? Anyway, but he came into the house and he looked cute. But my cousin Sari, who was my age and we used to even double date, she had to sit on his lap coming out because he caught. So at the dinner
She had a
table,
bony ass, I want to tell you.
so at the dinner table, I was here, Sari was in the middle, and Harry was here. And every once in a while he'd go, you know, say, well, so what do you do? Or, you know, what are you doing or what?
Social conversation.
What?
Yeah.
Very
Casual.
innocent, casual conversation. And I wasn't very forthcoming because I figured Sari's on his lap and maybe if she wants to date him, it's okay too. I didn't know him that well. Sue goes into the kitchen with me. She said, you know, what did you say?
I said, you're very rude. He came out to see you. You're not even talking to him.
She said, you're not even talking to him. I said, but Sari came out, and if she wants to date him, it's okay, you know? Well, anyway, he goes home, and he calls me the beginning of the week, right? To ask me to go to a play the following Saturday. We went to Bobby Clark, right? I had to meet him in New York. So he said, and I'm on the phone and all, and I hang up, and I said, you know, Saul, he said his brother has tickets for the show. And I said, but he didn't ask to speak to Sue. Saul took another girl. He took,
Oh.
Saul took somebody else. It was somebody he knew that was a whack in the army. And
What's a whack?
That's what they
Women
call it, a
Auxiliary
woman,
Corps, Army Corps.
woman Army Corps. And she had come in for a weekend or something, and he had been dating her before. So I felt so peculiar because I went to the play with Harry, and Saul had taken another girl. You know, it was stupid. But and then Susan, you'll appreciate this because he asked me for another date, and I said, well, I'm not coming in alone. If you could get a guy for my friend Ellie, well, I'll come in with her by bus. He said, yeah, that's okay. He said, I'll call you on Friday. So I tell my friend Ellie, who was quite popular, not to make a date for Saturday night because we're going to go into the city, right? Friday comes, I don't get a phone call, and I'm so embarrassed for Ellie because
That's it.
he didn't show up. He stood me up. So I figured, I'll take care of you. Okay, I married him, and he's been suffering for 50 years.
Now,
Because, now you tell him how
yeah,
it was.
Grandpa, how
How
come?
come you stood me
I
up?
had my notice that I was going into the Army. My friend Mac told me he's going down to Florida for a week with his sister. If I want to come along, there's room in the car. So I went.
I forgot about the phone call. He was
I figured I'll
supposed to
send her a card. I didn't realize that you have to be that, I only knew her only a couple of times.
make. So, anyway.
Okay.
But it-
And I told you I wasn't that nice a guy to begin with in those days.
Well, I got even with him, didn't I, honey? Didn't I? That's me.
Okay, so we're gonna cut this interview off.
Well, it's one quick story.
One quick story.
No, I don't wanna tell it, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Tell them the story the time you met Carter in in Walgreens buying the car. Carter.
Not Carter. It was
Carter,
no.
Linus.
Linus.
Who's that?
Linus
Tell 'em the
Stingle.
story.
Dingo.
Oh,
I don't know
Linus
if he has
Stingle.
time then.
I have 11 minutes.
This is
Okay.
not in
I spoke
sequence.
quickly.
This
I had
is in a...
19.
Okay, that's all right as long as we get it all
Okay,
in.
all right.
You talking to me?
No.
Yeah, now, but he has the camera.
So he's got the camera on
Danny.
me.
It's the suit.
Wait.
Oh, it's that too. Okay, I thought it was coming. We're gonna get everything, but this is all
Yeah.
pre-marriage stuff. Okay,
And
answer.
you'll have to, edit this so that we'll splice it or
Okay.
something.
Marital stuff you said?
Still pre. Okay, we have 10 minutes. Let's hear the story.
Okay. Uncle Saul and Harry were very busy in the cleaning store.
Mm.
And it was in May when Mother's Day is, and that's the season when they change from storage, and there's a big storage season in our
So
store.
taking the storage out, right.
Yeah,
Tell them the
taking.
story I told him. It
Yeah.
wasn't Carter.
So anyway, Linus, who was one of our delivery boys, he asked for permission, could he go next door where there was a pharmacy that sold greeting cards, would they give him time off, he wants to go in and buy a greeting card for Mother's Day for his mother. So Saul said, yeah, while you're there, pick one out for Sue, right? you know that story? Yeah. Now Linus was dark, like, a black person. It just happened that I was there too, picking out a card for my mother. And I see Linus picking up cards, putting it down, picking up another card, reading it, putting it down.
But he knew you, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
Linus knew. I lived upstairs,
Harry,
right.
give me the phone.
And I'm thinking, Linus, can I help you? Thinking that I'm helping him pick out a card for his mother, So he looks at me And I swear he turned white. And he said, well, I'm really picking out the card for you. And I got so mad, you know, it's Saul. And I said, for me? He said, yeah, your husband told me to pick out a card for you. So I said, you know what, Linus, let me pick it out. And it'll be our secret. We won't tell him. And you'll bring in the card, and, you know, he'll give it to me, and that's what happened. And about a half year later, I had a little tiff with Saul about something unrelated. And I said, and the next time you can send in Linus again to give me a card. He said, what are you talking about? And I told him. He says, oh my God, I didn't know that. He says, but I was too busy innocently. He was too busy to run in to get me a card. He didn't know that Linus never told him, and I never told him until...
Linus,
You gotta hear this about Linus. Linus was a character. He was a wino. This guy could just sniff a cork and he's out. And what happened with him, he was in the Navy, and in the Navy, the black kids they couldn't get anything, any titles or anything. He always worked in the kitchen. And he loved to clean. I mean, this guy lived to clean. So he would we used him, Sue used him, we'd just go up and he'd say, boy, this is a job. And he'd make, right, it was like
he'd
beautiful.
come down and he'd say, Miss B, you have the
One day on
cleanest clothes
Christmas
on
night,
50 cents.
Christmas
so
night, somebody
proud.
gave him a drink and he was in a phone booth in Greenwald
He
and he
passed out.
passed out. And I happened to be in Greenwald and I saw him and I pulled him up
Okay.
and I thought, how am I gonna get him home? This guy was out like a light. I drove him to Harlem. I found out where he lived and all, you know, and I got him home. Saul and I drove him home.
Wow.
There's another one.
But this guy,
Such a
he was the
sweetheart.
sweetest, gentlest guy you ever
Such a
knew. But
sweetheart.
one sniff of a cork, he's
He had
out.
so much
He,
alcohol.
he
in his
got
system.
limp as a rag,
You know, he didn't
and the
even
guy is
drink.
unbelievable.
He just smelled the book and he, yeah. But he was so proud when he cleaned. He said, Miss B, you're gonna have the cleanest, wait a minute, you're poking at her head.
Whoa. Okay.
Gonna
said you'll
step
have-
on this.
With just 6.5 minutes left,
Watch
any
this
last
also.
stories to get on this tape that anyone thinks so?
But look, to
Well,
go back to
yes,
this
I
time,
wanna
just
tell you
think,
something.
for two white guys to bring Dingle home in
Yes.
Harlem, in the middle
Yes.
of Harlem, and
Yes.
look around and ask for addresses and everything. I mean, that's how it was in those days. It wasn't like you'd be afraid to go or anything like that. Like at the time when Saul was sick and he was in the hospital up in
St. Luke's.
St. Luke's.
We couldn't.
Cab drivers wouldn't even drive you up there.
You know, we
Really?
You
we
know,
went
yeah.
to Lexington
Well,
Avenue
that's a
to
fact.
get a cab, and when they said where
So
you going,
times changed so completely.
they said no way, and they just drove off.
It was really
So-
bad back then?
So where St. Luke's was. So
late
Harry
60s,
said, you know,
early
the next cab that comes, let's not tell them where we're going, because once you sit in the
Once
cab,
you're in there, you
they have to take you.
know, and you
So
can't
we
sit.
just jumped in, and then
Look at how
Harry
busy
said,
he is.
wait, and so
Well, we
Harry
couldn't
said.
get a cab back, that was
busy.
the tough
Yeah.
part.
So Harry said, could
Okay,
you wait
that's
for
it.
us? He
That's-
said, no,
this is
sir,
Oh,
your
no.
you
dad.
know, to go out while we visit. He said, no, sir. He said, you got me here once, I'm getting out of here. And we had to,
Yeah, what we
The
do is
hotel-
watch for
the
a cab to drop somebody off,
And
and then
jump
we
right
grab
in.
him and go back.
they
Now-
didn't mind going back,
now-
but they didn't want to go.
Grandpa, you lived in Harlem. Was it like a separate area, like
Yeah, well, Harlem
ethnically
wasn't the
separated?
Harlem it is here, I mean,
Can't do
it
it.
was Italian, Irish,
Too big?
and that's it, there were no blacks, no Hispanics.
Yeah?
Okay,
none.
oh, there's a little one.
It was 100% Jewish and Italian.
Yeah, Grandpa, in less than 5 minutes we have left. You tell us about the New York Giants?
Oh, my.
The baseball New York Giants?
5
So
minutes?
that was my team, yeah.
This
They
is gonna
waited-
be some mixed up tape
Where's the polo ground?
Yeah.
between from Porridge
And
to.
we hated the Dodgers. But what changed my whole mind was when Leo DeRocha was managing Brooklyn,
Oh.
came to the Giants. I mean, it was like the world came to an end. It was like there was no more such thing as teams anymore.
Who was-
It's all money.
Who were some of the great players in the golden era before?
I like Bill Terry at first base and Jackson
Nice and Fred, if he
at
had
shortstop.
salad.
And,
Fred, how was your
well,
dinner?
gee, they had a great third
Boy,
baseman
we got
too.
so much.
Not to digress for a
They
second.
had JoJo Moore in right field.
And Mel Lott, right?
Mel Ott, yeah,
Now you saw Babe Ruth, didn't you?
yeah, yeah.
What was that
Well,
like?
my Uncle Jaime took me
Next
to a
time, you know,
Yankee
for me,
game.
I'm looking around.
And I didn't go to many games, I just was a fan. But I happened to be witness to one of the funniest things that I ever saw. Babe Ruth and Sam Rice were in the outfield. Sam Rice was center field, Babe Ruth was right field. And they were playing the St. Louis Browns. And Goose Goslin hit a fly ball out to the mid between center and right field. And Ruth and Rice both crashed into each other and fell down. Everybody got off the benches and ran out there, and they picked up Ruth, and it was so embarrassing because Rice was still laying there after they were taking Ruth off. And I witnessed that. That was so funny.
Oh my God.
Well, the fans were hollering, "There's a guy laying there!"
Oh wow. So wait, how far were the Polo Grounds from Yankee Stadium at that time? They were pretty close, right?
Well, it was across the river.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did they have a subway that ran between
They had a
Polo
subway.
Grounds and
I never went much. I went to the Yankee Stadium a couple of times to see fights. I saw Billy Conn and Joe Louis fight.
Wow, you saw Joe Louis
Yeah,
fight? What was that like?
Some fight. Billy Conn was winning up to the 12th round. Then he got cocky and he started to slug it out with Louis, and Louis chopped him down. Bing, bing.
you always used to say that Lewis could throw a knockout punch a foot away.
That's right, 6 inches.
Oh my God.
Who
Wow.
was the Italian guy? I went to see a fight with Lou.
Jake LaMotta?
No, what's another with a
That's
G?
another funny story.
Graciano.
Graziani. Yeah.
Oh, Rocky.
Oh, the Rocky Graziano undefeated?
Yeah, I didn't understand at the time. I mean,
But that's funny, you
like
know,
fighting.
it has to do with Lanny. I was in a store and LaMotta and Graziano they lived in the neighborhood. And they were customers of ours once in a while. And LaMotta came over and I said to him, "Hey, Jake," I said, "why don't you give some advice to my kid here?" Lanny was about this big. He says to him, "Drink a lot of booze, kid, drink a lot of booze." And he schmuck. But that's a true story.
I remember those words to this day.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to stop this. We're at the tape's end, as it says. And that was wonderful, and we'll do this. We're going to continue on to this. We're going to continue on.